Hey everyone, what's going on? Pacific Drive just dropped update 1.011.002, and this patch is all about freeing up those saves that were getting jammed by a very specific, very annoying set of bugs. I'm going to walk you through what it fixes, why it matters, how to make sure you're fully patched up on your platform of choice, and a bunch of practical tips so you can get right back to planning routes, scanning anomalies, and hustling across the zone without losing momentum. First, a quick refresher on what was going wrong for a chunk of players. The hiccup centered on swapping between the new Whispers in the Woods expansion and the base game. If you did some scanning in the woods, pop back to the garage, and return to the original loop, you could end up with negative scanner charges. Negative. As in, the tool thought you owed the zone a few zaps instead of the other way around. That mismatch then had a knock-on effect with the route planner, leading to a softlock that made it feel like the garage door had been welded shut. Some folks tried the usual rituals, sleeping in the bunk, quitting to menu, fast travel dance, but nothing helped. This patch targets exactly that situation. It corrects the charge accounting bug and clears the snag in the planner so you can actually queue up your next run, hear the door grind open, and roll out like normal. So how do you know you've got the fix? On PC, make sure your client is fully updated and that you're not blocking downloads. If you ever disable automatic updates for bandwidth reasons, pop into your library, right-click Pacific Drive, and hit the update check manually. On PlayStation, highlight the game tile, press Options, and select Check for Update. On Xbox, hop into Manage Game and Add-ons, and look under Updates. Once the patch is on your system, launch like normal. If your save was previously stuck, go straight to the planner and confirm it's taking input again. You should be able to pick a destination, see the familiar route nodes light up, and proceed without the planner freezing or throwing a fit. If you had negative charges, bring up the scanner and confirm the counter is back to sane numbers. You don't need to do a ritual to zero it out. The update handles that under the hood. Let's talk about what this means in moment-to-moment play. Pacific Drive's loop is equal parts preparation and improvisation. You plan a route, stock the trunk, eyeball the weather, and hope the zone cooperates. In the Whispers expansion, you've got new places to poke around and some extra systems in play, so moving between modes is part of the fun. When a planner or scanner bug blocks that frictionless back and forth, not only does it interrupt the run you're on, it also messes with your overall rhythm. This patch basically hands you back your pace. If you've been avoiding certain objectives because you were worried about getting trapped in the garage again, you can relax and start working through that backlog. Those nodes you've been meaning to unlock, those materials you've been short on, the upgrades you paused mid-craft because you didn't want to tempt fate. If you're still seeing weirdness after installing the update, let's run through a quick checklist right here. On PC, verify the game files to make sure a half-downloaded asset isn't throwing things off. It's a quick integrity check, and it solves more mysteries than you'd think. If you're using mods, disable them temporarily and try the save again. Even benign tweaks can conflict after a new patch, especially ones that touch UI elements or inventory tools. If you play across both the DLC content and the base loop, load into the garage, wait a moment so scripts can initialize, and then open the planner. Give it a second to populate, rather than hammering inputs instantly. On console, if the store said the game updated but things still feel odd, fully power cycle the machine. A cold restart clears cached states that sometimes cling to old logic. Now, assuming you're back in business, let's make the most of it. Route planning in Pacific Drive is half strategy map and half personal preference. You want certain materials? Build a chain that hits biomes where those materials drop in decent numbers. Chasing a blueprint? Plot paths that nudge you past landmarks and caches. In the expansion forests, remember that visibility and pathing can feel a little tighter, so consider adding one safe-ish node between the garage and your target. That buffer is your get your bearings stop. Great for topping off charges, repairing a panel, or swapping tires if you started the run with the wrong tread for the weather shift. Speaking of charges, a small best practice reminder now that the counter behaves. Don't hoard to the point of paralysis. It's tempting to protect every last zap for emergencies, but scanning early can save you actual parts later. If you're in a new zone section and see a cluster of anomalous signatures, do a focus sweep before you wade in. You'll prevent damage you would have spent resources repairing, and you'll get a mental map of where not to park when you jump out to yank scrap. Once you've popped a few scans, stow the tool and move. Keeping it out longer than needed just invites you to overuse it rather than reading the road and trusting your setup. Let's also talk garage flow, because a smooth prep loop makes a huge difference. I like to think in micro kits. You've got your emergency repair kit, duct tape, quick patches, a small stack of scrap. You've got your mobility kit, spare tire, jack, a fuel can if you're the forgetful type. You've got your exploration kit, scanner, a couple of beacons, and maybe a backup battery depending on your build. Label the trunk compartments mentally so you can open the trunk and grab without sorting mid-storm. After this patch, your planning screen should let you reflect those intentions again without freezing up. So actually take the minute to set the order. If you're doing a run that pivots between the woods and the base zones, that order matters because the vibe of obstacles changes quickly, and you don't want to be hunting for the one item you need while lightning is getting personal. A quick word for newer players who might have stepped in with the expansion launch and then hit this bug. Don't let the softlock scare you off. Pacific Drive has always been about the relationship between you and the car. The zone throws a tantrum, you adapt, you tinker, you add a panel, you swap a module, and slowly the jalopy becomes a trusted friend. The update is a reminder that the developers are actively smoothing out the snags so that core relationship stays front and center. If you found yourself stuck right when you were learning the ropes, this is your sign to give it another shot and feel the loop as it's meant to run. Prep, plan, run, return, upgrade, repeat. While we're on that loop, let's go over a few small but powerful habits. When you arrive in a node, pause before you sprint away from the wheel. That 3-second scan of the horizon can save you from parking in a field of mean surprises. Use your headlights and your ears. The audio cues in this game do a ton of heavy lifting for telegraphing trouble. If you hear a particular hum or crackle, trust it and adjust your path. When you get back to the car, close the trunk before you drive. It sounds silly, but you know exactly how many times you've peeled out with it flapping, and the zone absolutely notices. And when you finish a run, do a 30-second postmortem in the garage. Ask yourself what gear you never touched and what you wished you'd had one more of. That's your shopping list for the next outing. Now, for those who live in the settings menu, a gentle reminder. After any patch, it's smart to revisit your graphics and controls. On PC, drivers and in-game patches sometimes jostle each other, and a small change like flipping VSync or retuning your FPS cap can restore smoothness. If you play at high refresh, lock your cap to something your machine holds steadily in the roughest weather you encounter, rather than the absolute maximum it hits in the garage. Stability matters more than a big number that collapses when the lightning starts throwing a party. On console, if you toggled performance options before, double-check they're still where you left them, then run a quick test drive through a known trouble spot and see if it feels better. The key is to establish your baseline again so you can tell if a hiccup is a one-off or something to actually troubleshoot. Let's circle back to that whole planner experience, because it's the backbone of runs. A strong habit is to build routes with at least one bailout option. In practical terms, that means when you're building your path, try to include a mid-route node that connects to 2 or more other nodes instead of only 1. If things go sideways, fuel goes faster than expected, weather escalates, or you crack a critical part, you've got a side path to duck into and regroup, rather than plowing forward because you committed. The planner makes those connections visible, and with the patch unjamming it, you can resume treating that screen like your tactical map. If you're the type who likes to push deeper each trip, keep a spare beacon in the trunk for marking a safe-ish spot you can recognize from a distance when you're racing a storm back to the car. It doesn't trivialize the run, it just gives you a lifeline you can decide to use or ignore.